Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 151 of the Terminal City FC podcast, part of the Area 51 Sports Network. Josh Roy joined alongside Nathan Derrick as per usual, here to talk all things soccer/football. And we are broadcasting live, if you're joining us, on the Area 51 Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. So, as always, we'll start with the Vancouver Whitecaps. It's been a week of opportunity, a week of Cascadia rivalries, but disappointing. Only 1 point out of those two games, but let's start with Saturday against the Portland Timbers. Wish they were solid for 15, 20, 30 minutes, but things just fell off.
You know what? It started really beautiful. A great goal in the third minute for Brian White. I can't remember who actually cut in the pass on the right. I want to say it was Berhalter.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah,
it was.
The nice thing was the play that was created by the player who didn't touch the ball, and that's was Levante Johnson, who played the dummy, drew the defender along with him in the run to give Brian White the easy tap in.
Yeah, and that was a well-taken goal for the next 10, 20 minutes. It looked like they would add to it. I mean, Fafa Pico had a header, but it just skied over the bar.
Yeah.
They were trying, getting chances, but then Portland, being the team they are, they obviously got back into the game. They were starting to press the Whitecaps. Midfield looked dangerous on the counter. Jonathan Rodriguez did score, but he was clearly offside. And then that should have been like the warning, but instead the Whitecaps got a wake-up call. They go on the counter again. Jonathan Rodriguez scores. This time it counts. Unfortunately, it goes off Bjorn Inge Udvik, and nothing Yoe Takaoka could have done about that.
No. I mean, honestly, it didn't even look like the ball was heading towards the net.
Yeah, I probably would have
skied it. Went off Udvik's leg, and you got to feel for the defender. You hate it when defenders do their job, getting in front of balls, but only get a piece of it. And yeah, the deflection was significant. I mean, honestly, Rodriguez shouldn't have been counted for that goal. It should have been an Udvik own goal. The deflection was that severe.
Yeah. It was pretty much an own goal. And there were some nervy moments like late in the first half, early in the second half. I mean, at one point the Whitecaps had trouble clearing. They had like 6 attempts or something. They couldn't clear. Portland hit the post. And I mean, Brian White could have broken his career high in goals against Portland. Goes on a breakaway, but clearly offside. Just a few minutes later, goes on the breakaway again. He beats Max Crepeau, but not the post.
I know. And it's one of those ones where the ball almost feels like it's just crawling towards the post. Everyone's just stops for a little second just to watch it. No one's really sure what to do. But yeah, the post kind of felt deflating. You just, I mean, right away, the transition's coming the other way. You've got to reset. You don't have time to, shoulda, woulda, coulda. But that was the end of the Whitecaps attack. At that point, it was just hanging on for a point.
I had a feeling that
it was
they wouldn't win after that.
A well-fought point. Let's put it this way. It felt like a draw,
but
was the even outcome of what that match was.
Yeah, and I'm not really going to fault Brian White too much because it was a well-taken shot. He scored goals like that.
He had 4 goals in 4 games? I mean,
yeah, he scores goals like that, but the post just got in the way at the worst time.
The one thing with White, maybe it's with his feet, because the majority of it feels like no one scores more goals with his head than White, right?
Right.
And he's not the tallest guy in the world. He's just well positioned inside the box. And, with the Whitecaps being the number 1 crossing team in the league, chances are it's going to your head. It was one of those games where if you try harder, it almost feels like you're trying to push. You're trying to push through mud, right? It's just not working, and you can try harder, and all you're going to do is increase your level of frustration.
Right.
it was, and that was kind of what that game felt like. And unfortunately, I think that feeling compounded with, a few other things is what led into also on Wednesday of last night.
Yeah, but sticking with the Saturday game, kind of foreshadowing because it feels like fatigue was starting to settle in
Yeah.
throughout the game for the Whitecaps, given how many games they've played over the past few weeks. The intensity just died down after 30 minutes. Did show glimpses of getting back up, show glimpses of maybe they could win this game. Like at the end, Andres Gubis tried a shot from distance, but it hit the post. Like, could you imagine if that went in?
One thing I found really strange about Saturday's game is no Ryan Gauld.
Yeah,
Obviously, we knew he was injured, but no Pedro Vite. And when you take those two players out, I get it. They're different players, but those are your number one, your number two playmakers and creative players within the squad. You take those two out, you've basically nullified the midfield. All you can do with the midfield is there for defense and for linking up the sides. You know that all you're going to do is be crossing balls inside into the box. And if
that's pretty much what they
Portland
did.
understands that, it becomes much easier to nullify you because you only have one line of attack.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way the Whitecaps have always played throughout the wide areas, but it felt like they were clogging the midfield because you know how fast Portland are, like one of the fastest teams
Yeah.
in MLS, and they wanted to like beat them at their own game with the counterattacks, which nearly worked, if not for Brian White's post.
Yeah.
But yeah, Vite, I think he should have came on much earlier in that
I
game.
do
Maybe
too.
should have even started. Like
I
also players like Stuart Armstrong and Diber Caicedo, because they're creators as well.
Yeah. Again,
Should
I
have gone
get why
earlier.
Vite didn't start. You're playing a game every 3 days.
Yeah,
You got to give someone a break somewhere. So I understand them trying to find that. I think it's compounded and made much more difficult with the fact that Ryan Gauld, he's not being sat to be rested. He's dealing with an injury. So now it's not like you can go 1-for-1 and then change your formation to suit how that creator is going to be on the pitch. You take them both off, and well, you're looking for a much different structure, and one that I don't think they're necessarily prepared for.
yeah, and that game, most of the creation was done by Sebastian Berhalter
On the right,
and on the right, which isn't his natural position, but we know he can be a creator. But you need more than Sebastian Berhalter and even Ryan Raposo as well on the left
yeah.
to create.
One thing though is with that point, they did clinch at least the 9th position in the West. Good enough for the play in, or what they call the first round
The
of
play in, it's not the first round. So
play in. Yeah, I still think it's a play in. It doesn't feel like a playoff because there's only 2 teams involved in it.
yeah,
But yeah, they have clinched that going in. So minimal job done. Now it's to push up. You want to get at least into that top 7, arguably into that top 4. That top 4 is looking much more
difficult.
difficult
Yeah.
now. There's 6 points behind. Whitecaps still have 3 games to play. The teams that are up there higher up on the table have only 2 games. So, but remember, games in hand don't matter if you don't win them.
Yep, and that was a pretty frustrating game against Portland because at times you felt like they could have won. At times it felt like they were going to lose or get a draw, which they did. But again, another one of those games where it felt like there should have been more than 1 point. But frustrating is not the right word to describe. Last night, when the Sounders came to town, and Vanni Sartini pretty much pulled a Jurgen Klopp at the end of the game last night in the press conference. Said, well, no, instead of saying I'm running out of energy, he said we're running out of energy, which right from kickoff was clear. They were gassed. Like
Yeah,
they weren't connecting their passes, they couldn't get the ball. And there was so much miscommunications throughout the match last night, which we don't see happen with this team often. One thing that comes to mind was Takaoka trying to get the ball to Berhalter, but Berhalter's running up the pitch already. Or Fafa Pico trying to make a pass across the width of the area to Berhalter, but Berhalter realized it too late and went out of bounds. There was a lot of those kind of moments last night.
And it wasn't just from any one player. It was all 11, honestly, on the
Yeah.
pitch. That the physical. I mean, it's 3 weeks of a game every 3 days. It's
Yeah,
been
which
3 weeks,
is
right?
just
It was
again
3 weeks
crazy.
ago on the Wednesday. More so because you got the weekend game that would have preceded that as well. I did like in the first half. The first half, I mean, yeah, it was tired. Things were not quite clicking. There were moments that I did like. I said at the beginning of the game, based on the formation and the starting 11 that we had, that this had to be a big game for Pedro Vite. And you know what? He was good in the first half.
I think he was the best Whitecap on
He
the
was the
pitch.
best Whitecap on the pitch. The amount of crosses that he was laying in from more kind of infield positions, he was very, very dangerous. And Atakube had 2 monster chances to do something.
Yeah.
One of them a little bit more difficult, but the other one, the fact hitting it into the ground first so that it bounced right up over the post, over the crossbar, was deflating. That one felt like the one that was a miss, an absolute miss. I liked the play from the wide positions in the first half, right? Again, right. I like that. Atakube had good chances. Yes, he's not a goal scorer, so if he's going to miss a chance like that, I'm not going to begrudge him. He's got 1 goal from open play, right?
Yeah,
I'm not.
And that was a few weeks ago.
The fact that he's getting into those positions, I wish it was other players with a bit more finish, but you know what? Someone's getting there. Berhalter, you know what? Fine, he is missing a few things, but he wasn't the only one. The fact that of the number of crosses that he was putting in, do you remember the one he was involved in the beautiful one even in the second half? I think it was Fafa that initially had put it in.
Yeah,
in the second half, though. Yeah. Even all those players I just mentioned fell. Vite
fell off. Was the only one
still there a bit, but you could see how gassed he was, where he would make the cross or that forward linking play, and instead of joining up with the play, as soon as the pass was done, he'd stop and walk. He had nothing left.
I remember he tried a shot on Friday, just went right at him.
Yeah.
He just turned around and tried to run back. Like, he looked tired. Like, looked like he wanted to collapse.
Vania at the end of the match did basically put the blame on himself, said it was a matter of evaluating the condition of the players that were going to be in that starting 11 and not being done properly, not choosing a structure and a game plan that suited the condition of the players, trying to go with something that's more intense, which is, what we recognize from the Whitecaps when there's just no intensity in the squad right now. You can't play to that high intensity game in, game out when you're playing every 3 games, unless you're going to, end up running into your grave.
Pretty much happens.
It's true. It's true. That being said, this is Major League Soccer. You have 34 games in a season, and it's kind of a shorter, like it's a bit punctuated because you've got all these breaks for different competitions and whatnot. Leagues Cup where you're stopping. You got other competitions that your teams are playing in and whatnot. You have to still find a way.
Yeah,
you have to still find a way. So yes, that happens, and yes, you know what? Teams are going to have stinkers. They're going to have games where they absolutely, mess the bed. I don't want to say the T word, but this is one of them. This is one of them.
It can't be an excuse. Like, fatigue is a factor, but it can't be an excuse because every team was playing last night. Every team was playing on Saturday. Yeah, the Whitecaps are one exception because of Canada Champ last week, but there always needs to be a game plan.
But yeah.
For games like this, there always should be a plan B, a plan C. But what makes games like this frustrating is, the playoff race is getting more tight and more tight. It feels like they're wasting these opportunities to get into the top 4, which, by the way, is still possible, given the fact that Portland dropped points and Minnesota also dropped points last night. But
this is when you want your team to ramp up. right?
Yeah,
This is when you want them to ramp up. This is not when you want them to feel the weight of the months that have just happened. And right
yeah,
now,
and
it feels like they're feeling that weight.
yeah, it feels like they're wasting time with these drop points. I mean, like the Portland game kind of felt like a game they at times should have won. The Dallas game, you're sure they didn't have Ryan Gauld, but if not for Jimmy Marr, they probably would have blown that game wide open. Nothing really they could have done about that. But I also think about the game against Austin back in May.
Yeah.
Dominated the game, couldn't score. It's those games like that which make it frustrating and feels like, man, we should have won those games and maybe we would have been more comfortable in the playoff race, but no time to dwell on the past. But last night, it was, I mean, just poor for everyone watching, unless you're a Sounders fan, of course. I mean, there was some boos last night after the final whistle and at halftime. Like just after the second goal, I mean, even before that, things just felt dire. It felt like they were playing at one health point throughout that entire match, and it just feels criminal that they dropped a performance like that. Yeah, I know stuff like that happens, but drop the worst performance of the season in the midst of a playoff race in a rivalry game. Uh, it's just pretty bad. It's terrible. And by the way, the Cascadia Cup, that's pretty much lost at this point. I just found out. Um, Seattle and Portland have 7 points apiece, but they both have higher goal differential than the Whitecaps. So Seattle and Portland
The
also play on
tiebreaker is
decision
not goal
day.
differential, though. The
Is
first
it?
tiebreaker is individual records between teams, which is a really weird one because if they draw, doesn't that put every single team on 8 points?
Then
So I guess it would have to go to whatever the second thing is because basically
what's the second thing?
maybe it is goal differential. I'd have to take a look at that.
Yeah, because uh, unless I'm looking at it wrong, I'm trying to find the. I know. Yeah, here, Sounder at Heart. I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah,
on the
Sounder at
screen.
Heart's the good one to go to.
Um,
Greater goal difference in matches between the teams concerned. So that would be all three teams. If it's a draw, yeah, it would be goal difference.
Let me just share the screen to bring it up. Yeah, here it is. For those wondering, the updated Cascadia Cup standings. So -2 for Vancouver, 1 for Portland, Seattle. Yeah, it's pretty much lost at this point.
Yes.
And
Yeah. Even if there is a draw between those two teams,
on
Whitecaps
decision
are
day.
out.
Yeah.
But a draw between Portland and Seattle would be interesting because I think you'd have to go to the third tiebreaker to figure it out at that point.
Yeah, I something like that. But
Yeah. I don't know if
I
there's
guess,
been a situation where all three teams would be on even points at the end of it.
yeah, but
My guess is someone's going to win it outright and it'll be done. But yeah, it's
yeah,
interesting.
this cup that doesn't mean much, but still kind of disappointing. I mean, everyone last night had an off night. Even Andres Kubas was losing these duels.
Yeah.
Like that first goal was, it felt like the 2023 Whitecaps where they couldn't defend a set piece. Smart flick on by Jordan Morris, but that I forgot his name. It's hard to pronounce.
Georgie I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Problem is nobody's watching that far post. There was a man on the far post, but the fact that he didn't actually pick up the player coming in was a bit aggravating.
Yeah, Laborda lost his man there. For the second goal, clear penalty. No argument from Sebastian Berhalter or anyone.
I was actually mistaken when it happened. I thought it was Berhalter grabbing the guy down.
Yeah, I thought it was too.
It was Veselinovic who came in on a late challenge. Both of them were kind of at the same place, bungled it a bit. You could argue, yeah, Berhalter losing his man as he's coming into the box. But yeah, it was Veselinovic that brought him down.
Yeah, Renko said, yeah, I have no complaints there. He pretty much said. And
yeah, it's an absolute penalty.
He made a mistake.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Albert Rusnak scores, but too bad, though, because Yohei Takaoka dove the right way, almost had it, but he was just beaten cleanly.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have turned the tide if he managed to get a hand on it. I would think.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely picks up your team. They might have found a little bit of another gear, but yeah,
But that's 2 minutes.
penalties. What do they say? I think penalties. I mean, 4 out of every 5 penalties ends up going in the net, right? Goalkeepers.
Yeah.
I mean, you're playing against the house when it's that.
Yeah, and just 2 minutes later, like I don't know where the defenders were. It felt like they were they just again tired, asleep.
Yeah.
All looked like they took a nap, and then a game to watch.
When they're tired like that, I mean, let's be honest. How Vanny wants to play in such a zonal system, it's very cerebral, right?
Yeah.
It's very cerebral because you're not looking at the man, you're looking at areas of space. And when you're playing in that system, if one guy starts looking at the man, it pulls everyone else out. So Laborda, which does tend to happen to Laborda,
It does.
he gets zeroed in on the man. So all of a sudden, he's pulled away from his position on the wide right, that kind of wide right center back. Rodriguez is all alone because your wing back is still high up, trying to come back as the Sounders are on transition. He's got acres of space. Laborda can't get over there fast enough because he's out of position. Veselinovic can try and cover, but he still has to make up the distance.
Right, and then Paul
Rodriguez
Rothrock
has
goes all the way. Oh, yeah. By the way, Paul Rothrock, I think he's a homegrown player from Seattle. Name to watch. I think he's a young guy.
So. He's the guy that also drew the penalty.
Yeah, and the guy who scored against Houston last. No, he's 25. So yeah, and is a homegrown player from Seattle. So that's a guy that, like Vanny said, I think a few days before the Seattle game, that they're very good at bringing in players through the draft and whatnot. Rothrock's one of those guys.
Yeah.
And Fafa Pico gets sent off. First one, sure, I guess. Second one, clear yellow. Yeah. Deserved. Oh, by the way, apparently, I didn't see this in the stadium, but he was frustrated. He accidentally kicked the ball at one of the security guards.
Yeah.
But he apologized and hugged her.
Yeah. I expect more from a veteran player.
Yeah, I don't.
I expect more from a veteran player than knowing you're on a yellow and then to do just something silly like that.
Yeah, that was
you've made that referee's job so easy.
And what's more frustrating is that he'll mix the weekend against Minnesota and the game against LAFC because he's going to be called up
on Haiti duty. Yeah,
international duty, and it's been quiet for Fafa since the Houston game. Then he said maybe it's because one goal contribution picks up the option, and that's been on his mind. Maybe. We don't know what he's going through personally, but you expect more because what we've seen from Fafa this season.
Yeah. The thing, but then again, you can't argue. I mean, that's late in the game. You can't argue that it changed the game. It was done.
No, it didn't.
I mean, unfortunately, you're looking ahead because if he's going to miss that Minnesota game, how is Armstrong? How is Gauld? Are they going to be ready? It's only 3 days. I mean, that's the other thing is when you're playing every 3 days, you don't get to train. You get one very light session, and that's if you have no travel involved because you still have recovery days within that. So I mean, they basically haven't trained in over 3 weeks.
Yeah, and
right?
Yeah, they're doing a recovery session today and a light training on Friday. It's a grind, and
then after that you're on an airplane. Or no, they're playing at home, but they're looking at it's all based on the specific match at that point.
Yeah, and speaking of Gauld, this goes to show that when he's out of the lineup, the quality just dips. Like this is a completely different team without him, especially in the attack.
But they have found ways before. These last 2 games out. When Gauld's been out of the lineup, they have found ways before. They have been able to adapt. I mean, losing Gald is always going to be a huge piece. I mean, he's the linchpin of this squad. But when you compound everything else on top of this, that's what really hurts. It's a perfect storm right now. And
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but unless there is significant change for Saturday, I don't have a lot of hope for Saturday.
Me neither. If Gall's ready to go, maybe even off the bench, sure,
Well, the
but
other
we don't
thing
know yet.
is I think Armstrong might be. Well, no, Armstrong is actually out. Well, he has been training, but he's been training with the second team fully to try and get his match fitness up. Right.
Yeah,
The,
from what
the, the
I've
thing is, they want to get him to be able to play at least say 60 minutes.
yeah, and Gall has been half training, well, according
Yeah.
to Blake Price on Gareth Price. So we don't know if he'll be good to go on Saturday. But yeah, they found ways without Gall before. The Dallas game comes to mind, but that's Dallas,
Yeah.
and that
Minnesota's going to be a tough one. They've done rather well since League's Cup. Since League's Cup, they've got what 7 games they've played. They've won what 3, 4. They won 5 of them. Drew 1, lost 1. So tough,
Drew
tough.
last night against Real Salt Lake in
Yeah,
Utah.
yeah.
So that kind of was a saving grace for the Whitecaps. Yeah, before that they beat Colorado 3-0 and beat SKC 2-0. So yeah, this is a decent team. The Whitecaps last met them, I believe, in June or July. I can't remember the exact date, and they did win that game 2-1, I believe.
Actually, scratch
But
that. Out of their last 7 matches, they've won 6 of them and drew 1. They haven't lost since League's Cup.
they did lose to Cincinnati in September.
Oh, my bad. You're right. I looked at that wrong. They did lose to Cincinnati. So yeah, it was 5-1-1.
Yeah, and yeah, the Whitecaps. I'm just trying to look when these two teams last played. I believe it was June, or was it July? Because I remember they won in Minnesota, and hopefully they can do the double against them on Saturday. But yeah, I mean they're just below the Whitecaps in the standings, 46 points, and
But they're heating up right when they
they
should.
are heating up at the right time. They've scored more goals than the Whitecaps, 53, and they've conceded more, but their numbers are like really, really close.
Yeah. At this stage right now, you're looking at recency, right? You're looking at what is your run in, and right now their run in is phenomenal. It's one of the best in the league. So
Yeah. Even without Timo Pukki, who's dealing with a thigh injury,
yeah.
they're still doing pretty well. And let's not forget, like they have some good players outside of Pukki, like
Oh, yeah.
Dane Sinclair. This guy is one of the best goalkeepers in MLS, and is pretty much the 1A, 1B, whatever you want to call him, option for Canada.
Yeah.
And they got Calvin Yaboa, who's pretty good. And same with Jung Sung Bin. And let's not forget another guy that plays for Canada, Tani Alawase.
Yeah.
Oh, and the veteran, Robin Laud. Oh, yeah. And Whitecaps legend, quote unquote, Michael Boxall.
Seriously, I feel like that guy's in his 50s. He just feels like he's been around forever.
I think he's second behind Ranko in clearances in MLS.
It's always those two in the league. Yeah, Ranko again leads MLS in clearances, something that he has routinely done over the past 3-4 seasons.
Yeah, it's kind of concerning for the Whitecaps now, like given the form, because they're only 2 wins since League's Cup. The Austin away win,
which sucks because before League's Cup they had won 6 of 7. So just hits them at the right, hits at the wrong time.
And then they beat San Jose, which the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
And both Austin and San Jose are obviously out of the playoff picture. They haven't beat anyone in the playoff picture since League's Cup. Concerning. And someone also mentioned to me last night that Whitecaps have also scored against Seattle only when they're down a man or two.
earlier in this season. Yeah, that 2-0 win when they lost two players
Yeah, and then
to red cards, and then the other game was a draw 0-0, I think
1-1.
1-1. There you go.
You know, with God scored late.
Yeah, so Whitecaps, 3 more games, 3 more chances to move up. They have clinched, but something needs to change. Otherwise,
Otherwise, I do not want to see this team in the play-in. I'm sorry. Like, put it
they
bluntly, I
want
don't
to win
want
a
to see this team.
playoff game, period. So
Yeah,
something's got to change. That was not the only Whitecaps team that played over the past week. On Tuesday, we had the Whitecaps Girls Elite Academy team playing back in the CONCACAF Champions W Cup.
yeah, and
They were welcoming the San Diego Wave to town from the NWSL. Tough game. You're talking about a group of young women playing against
teenagers.
seasoned professionals.
Yeah, and to their credit, it was a hard-fought game. It could have been much worse if not for Morgan McAslin's like 9, 10, whatever saves it was. Routine saves mostly, but good on her.
Well, let's put it this way. Shots were 2 to 32.
Yeah,
right?
Vancouver didn't have a shot on target.
Yeah, there was 9 shots on target for the San Diego Wave. And to their credit, the first goal didn't even come in the first half. They didn't score until the 59th minute. And it was all 2-0.
Yeah,
yes, it was a one-sided. I mean, the pitch wasn't tilted. It was a mountain with Whitecaps on the bottom side of it. But you expect a game like that to be much, much different. Compare this to the game last night, Fraser's Whip playing Gotham FC, 13-0 for Gotham, right?
Yeah, but credit to the Whitecaps back line too for handling the Wave. I know they didn't have some of their best players, like Kaylin Sheridan wasn't in goal; she was on the bench.
Yep.
But they did well. And Landon Donovan, the Wave head coach, he said his team underestimated the Whitecaps Girls Elite team, and he pretty much praised them and said, yeah, they deserve a lot of credit.
Which is really nice to hear. Yeah. Right now, Group B standings, Whitecaps are sitting in 4th out of 5 places. Santa Fe being at the bottom of that. Whitecaps had played them earlier.
And won.
And won the game 1-0. Yeah. Coming up next will be in 2 weeks on the 15th, where they play Portland Thorns. And welcome back, Christine Sinclair, for what could be and is likely her final game on Canadian soil.
Yeah, since she announced that she will be retiring at the end of the season with the Thorns.
Yeah.
So if you can, make your way out to BC Place to see Sinclair for one final time, and to, just support women's soccer and the Whitecaps Girls Elite Academy. So we mentioned Canada. The October lineup for the friendly against Panama is out. A lot of names you expect to be on there, like, for example, Whitecaps, Sam Adekubi and Ali Ahmed. But what's significant, and Marsh was true to his words here, many young players that are dual nationals.
Yeah, 3 players have been called up that could potentially be up for their first ever cap for the Canadian men's national team. We're looking at Jamie Knight Lebel, who right now plays in the EFL Championship.
Through Alexandra.
Or actually, he's with Bristol City in the Championship, but he's on loan to Crew in League 2. We also have Kwasi Poku, who is with Belgian club RWD Molenbeek.
He just signed there
Challenger
from
Pro League, so that's the 2nd division of Belgium, I believe.
He just signed there from Forge for a record outgoing fee. So CPL alumni for the win.
And the other player that we've been talking about a little bit, because this is one that we expected for a while, is Santiago Lopez. Mexican born, dual citizenship with Canada. He actually was a youth international with Canada, but he has been called up and he plays for Pumas.
Yeah, we think we did get a glimpse of him when Pumas were here.
Yeah,
during Leagues Cup.
And he's started to come out into his own. He hasn't played a lot of games for the senior team. I think he's only got 2 games, but he's only 19 years old, I believe.
Yeah, these players are young.
Yeah,
19, 20 years old. And yeah, it's good that we see a lot of some dual nationals. Even good to see someone like Luke De Forgeois get a bunch of call ups, even though he's playing for the second team in Fulham. And you get to see Nico Segur again. And of course, you get to see all the vets, the players, and hopefully it's a good game against Panama in Toronto, which is coming up, I believe, in the next week. Hey,
Yeah.
tickets are only $25 plus fees, which not bad.
The first time they've been playing back in Canada under Marsh's era. You get a chance to see him. I mean, I'd love to, but unfortunately, that's what
We don't live in
4,000.
Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't. Hopefully, these players get to come on, and we get glimpses of what they can do for Canada.
Absolutely. All right, CPL.
So yeah, the race is starting to heat up, and Vancouver did not lose this time around, but thankfully I didn't get to see the entirety of this game because it was kind of a snooze fest, as everyone tells me. 0-0. Cavalry pretty much dominated this game. I mean, they had the shots for 15-6. 4 on target for Cavalry, 2 for Vancouver. But to Vancouver's credit, they hung on, and good on Callum Irving, good on the likes of James Cameron and David Norman Jr., Paris G, for hanging on. But I don't know. This team just can't put it together. When they defend well, they can't attack well. When they attack well, they can't defend well.
It's been a season in two halves.
Yeah,
right?
that's pretty.
Season of two halves.
That sums up Vancouver FC in a nutshell. Like, they can't put it together.
Yep.
Though I guess for Cavalry, it feels like a missed opportunity to make up some ground on Atletico Ottawa, who, one win in the last 5 games, and the rest were draws. But I bet Cavalry are kicking themselves that they didn't score 1 against Vancouver. But again, props.
Cavalry has such a weird record. Almost half of their games this season have been draws.
Yeah. I mean, think of all the missed points.
It's when you're talking about those fine margins over the entirety of a season, you can't help but wonder. It does give you a platform for another year to figure out what can you do. But the thing is CPL is one of those leagues where a roster one year can be vastly different to the next year, right?
Yeah, because
a lot of players are on single season contracts.
Yeah, because players come and go all the time in the CPL, and many don't even last a season. And Cavalry would have. Cavalry did clinch a playoff spot.
The top 4 have already clinched. That has been decided.
Yeah, it just needs.
And then there's quite a distance in points between 4th and 5th.
Dogfight between Pacific, Vancouver, and Valor. Pacific lost to Valor in Winnipeg. The only goal of the game was an own goal from Kevin Cesario, Pacific.
You got to add Wanderers to that dogfight. Between 5th and 8th, there's only a 2-point difference.
Yeah, and remember we were saying, oh man, Halifax Wanderers can't win a game.
They can't. And then all of a sudden they finally woke up. I mean, yes, they've only won 6 games, but it might be enough if they keep going. Like, there's still games to go, but they can actually pull this off. Which, I mean, you got to be that's one hell of a turnaround in their season.
Yeah, I mean, the last 3 games have been draws, but especially against Atletico Ottawa, who I believe are kicking themselves that they couldn't beat Halifax and lost ground on the title race because it's pretty much 4 just to lose at this point.
Ottawa is going to come around, not this season. I mean, they could still go for the in playoffs, but they're going to be the team that pushes Forge next year in the regular season. Like, this has been Forge's league pretty much since the league's inception. I know other teams have popped up there. Pacific had their year, but Forge has always been the one. Ottawa is the team that could change that. Yeah,
and every league needs a villain, even a league like the CPL. Forge is the villain. And there's 3 weeks left in the CPL.
You gotta have your storylines.
Yeah, 3 weeks left in the CPL. playoff race is heating up. Forge like pretty much in some ways wrapped up the regular season, but they look poised to defend their title, their playoff title.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, let's go over to Europe. And this man just keeps amazing people. Like, just when you think like he can't do anything greater, he manages to. So 4-2 Chelsea win over Brighton Hove Albion on Saturday at Stamford Bridge. And Cole Palmer is the first Premier League player ever to score 4 goals in one half, and he did it in like less than 20 minutes.
Wow. You know what? It doesn't happen that often, but I'm surprised he's only the first.
Yeah, I mean, we had 4-goal games, but not in one half.
I guess, yeah.
Could have had 5 or 6. I mean, early in the game, he had a shot just like Brian White's miss against Portland. Beats the goalkeeper, but not the right post. And the first goal, he did score on the breakaway this time, past the Brighton goalkeeper Van Bruggen. Second goal, penalty after Jadon Sancho drew it pretty well. The third one, amazing free kick from I don't know how many yards. Just picked his spot and beat Van Bruggen cleanly. One of the best goals of the season, one of the best free kick goals you'll ever see.
Unless you saw Messi's second goal yesterday.
Yeah, which I admit was more impressive. Yeah. But, I mean, and plus he's Messi. Just an amazing free kick. And then fourth one, Nicholas Jackson pretty much lays it off for him, and he scores a tap-in. I mean, it was 4-2 at the end of the half, if you can believe it. It was just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. One of the best halves of football you'll ever see in recent memory. And only 4 players in Chelsea's history have scored 3 hat-tricks in Premier League play. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, Didier Drogba, Frank Lampard, and now Cole Palmer.
There you go.
22 years of age, and he's already up there with the greats. So there you go.
Time to retire.
And then since September of last year, this is a crazy, crazy stat. I still can't believe is true. Nobody in European football has more goal contributions than Cole Palmer, except Harry Kane. Which
you've got to put him up there. You got to put him up there.
Crazy. And yeah, he has more goal contributions than Haaland, Mbappe, Vinicius, who's likely to win the Ballon d'Or, Bellingham, Saka, Foden, Son, and everyone else. So right now, is Cole Palmer the best player in the league on form? Yes. Well, you can make an argument for Haaland because he's Haaland. And that guy's also a machine. And when you think best player of the league, you think of Haaland, Foden, Rodri, who's unfortunately out.
Yeah.
You could even say Odegaard, Son, Salah still is in that conversation.
Saka.
Yep, Saka too, but Cole Palmer.
I hate to say that, but yeah, Saka.
Cole Palmer has to be there, like in the upper echelon of best players in the Premier League, and just best player in the Premier League. Right now, he's one of the best in the world. You could even make the argument that he is the best player in the world right now on form.
Yeah, I mean, I look at his age and I hesitate a little bit just because he is so young. Best player in the world is something that I think comes with form and experience, and he just hasn't had the time to do that. But on form, like if you look at kind of an immediacy look, yeah, he's definitely up there. I think he's one of those guys that really fits his nickname, because every time he does something, it does not faze him. It's just like, all right,
ice cold,
next, right? Yeah. But you know who else also is like that is Erling Haaland. Like they're players where it's like the highs and the lows don't get to them. They just go out there and they excel. And I think that almost more than anything is what's going to give him the experience to push on and be counted kind of undisputedly as one of those top players in Premier League history.
Yep. And both him and Holland are robots. Their brains are pretty much hardwired to play football because off the pitch they both basically have no personality. Like I remember during
Like Connor
Palmer's,
McDavid for the Oilers.
yeah, Palmer's post game interview. He was like, "Yeah, it's for 4 goals. Maybe it had more, pretty much." And um, too bad Nicholas Jackson couldn't have scored the fifth goal because he made an incredible pass, but Jackson had his shot cleared off the line by the Brighton defender, and there was still from this game, mostly from Robert Sanchez. Like 3 minutes in, he and Levi Cole get their signals crossed. Sanchez misses the punch, and Brighton score right from the get go. But for the first time in a long time, it felt like okay, we're down 1-0, but it's not like great. Here we go again. This time we're like okay, I think we'll get back into this.
Chelsea has a very definite plan and an identity. And I think that's something that had been lacking a little bit from Chelsea in previous years.
Yep.
They know where they're going, just like how right now Tottenham knows where they're going. When you see them getting on the pitch and you can see how they're setting up, you're like, okay, I know what's happening. I know where they're going. I know what they're going to do. That kind of differentiates themselves from the Man Uniteds, where I don't know what's going on. It's spaghetti thrown at a wall.
Yeah, and Maresca and his counter pressing 3-5-2 counter attack. When it works, it's great, but there are times where it still needs to be worked on, but it's working. There's a plan, there's an identity. Chelsea stuck to it. But Sanchez, that was him on the second goal too. Tries to pass it to Caicedo, gives it to Baliba, and gets beat. So again, Robert Sanchez, I don't know, goalkeeper that's good with his feet supposedly keeps making errors like that. That's why a lot of Chelsea fans get upset with him. But other than that, it's also
so he's your version of Michael Vorm.
Pretty much. Other than that, Jadon Sancho, free from the shackles of Eric Ten Hag, has 3 assists in 3 games. So I don't know. Maybe treat the guy well, and Maresca done that so far, and it's for Jadon Sancho since he joined.
Yeah.
And it's also worth mentioning that both Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez were really good. Like Fernandez pretty much starting those counterattacks with those long balls. That's the player that they bought, and that's what he does. So up next for Chelsea, Ghent today, about in an hour's time. I think the game will be over by the time this is up on the podcast feeds in the Europa Conference League. Ghent, former home of Thibaut Courtois. He came through their academy, I think. And Jonathan David used to play there. So
that's who it is. I was going to say, wasn't that Tejan Buchanan? But you're right, it was David.
Yeah, it was David before he went to Lille. More on him later.
Mm-hmm.
And the game comfortably. And then on Sunday, last game before international break, Nottingham Forest at Stamford Bridge. So we'll see what Chelsea can do, see what Cole Palmer can do. Though he won't play against Ghent, but he'll play against Nottingham Forest. So Tottenham, back-to-back 3-0 wins, but in the Europa League, down a man, no problem.
Oh man, it didn't start well. Pass back to Radu Dragusin in the 7th minute, fumbles the back pass, has to recover and get the ball, but unfortunately, Karabag out of Azerbaijan, who they were playing, man gets past him. He brings him down. Clear goal scoring opportunity. He was on net with no one there. Red card.
Yep.
Red card.
Clear red. But you got to bail bad for Bergvall.
Well, that's just it. First off, this was the game for Dragusin to shine, right? He's getting in a lineup, a very rare start because you've got Cristiano Romero, Mickey Van de Vet. That's the pairing. That's who you're going with. This was his start to show, look, I can get games. Give me games. I can take some pressure off of those two guys. When you're not when you do that. Unfortunately, Now you got to sacrifice someone to bring on Romero, who I believe had been the one out of those three that was on the bench. And the person that they sacrifice is Lucas Bergvall, who's getting his first start in the midfield, and deservedly so, needs it. I get it. You have to sacrifice someone because you got to be able to keep your defensive shape. But I feel for the young kid because that's a punch. And
he did not look happy coming off.
Well, the only one that he can blame, I hate to say it, is his teammate.
Hey, if I were him, I would have.
Yeah,
I would have.
Right?
I would have given it to Dragusin after the game.
You go into the locker room, you say, "I get one free one of these, and then we're good."
Yeah. Oh, maybe I would have done that, but
you know what? Did not matter. Check out Johnson's goal in the 12th minute. Assist by Solanke. I mean, you're not going to get an easier goal than that in your career. And I think with Johnson, that's 4 and 4. He comes under criticism, which I think is unjust. I think the criticism is also disgusting. But this is how you answer critics. This is how you tell your critics to shut up and that you don't know this sport. Simple enough.
Hey, he's been doing this a lot when he scores. So,
and then tie in the half, but in the second half, it's completely unleashed. Sarr off a corner in the 52nd minute. 5 minutes after that, Bissouma, bit of a penalty call, but ends up going off the crossbar. You can make your own decision with that. Solanke, his third goal in 3 games. And then the nice thing is that Mikey Moore, the 17-year-old academy player, comes on for the final 6 minutes, and he's given a run. So it was nice to see him actually get some time. Obviously, you wish you could have given him a bit more time. But when you're playing with only 10 men, you have to kind of balance whether or not you want to put your young guys in that sort of situation. But yeah, 10 men down for over 90 minutes or for over 80 minutes of the match didn't look like it was any problem. A solid 3-0 win.
Right.
Head over to the weekend, Man United at Old Trafford. And yes, I get it. Man United is not the team of old, but this is still a tough team. This is still a tough stadium. Before this match, Tottenham had only won 4 times at Old Trafford in the Premier League era. So we're going back to early 90s. Again, simple whatnot. And Johnson in the 3rd minute, but this is not Johnson's goal. This is Mickey Van de Ven's goal. If you want to understand why Van de Ven is clocked in as the fastest player in the Premier League, watch this goal.
My God, he just left the Man United players in the dust, but that was pretty poor defending because they all just stood around like this.
It was statues. Abysmal defending. I mean, I'm sorry, but he's the run was from his own half.
Yeah,
someone should have been able to pick him up.
Someone should take him on.
Had all the time in the world to do so, and I get it. That time is a little bit shorter because of how fast he is, but to allow him to do that run, to make it pretty much right down to the byline, and to cut that cross in. When he cut that cross in, I think he had drawn about 3 players to him. Pretty much almost all the defenders were on him again. And my mistake, Johnson's goal against Karabakh was his 3rd goal in 3 games. This was his 4th goal in 4 games. So it makes it easy.
Good on him.
And it was just wave after wave after wave.
Dominance.
It was just pure dominance. You saw a team that came in with a game plan, and the game plan was full-on Spurs. It was just overload. And you saw Man United not knowing what the hell was going on.
They had no plan.
Fernandez picked up a red card in the 42nd minute. Yes, the boot was high. Yes, it looked dangerous. I don't think it was a red card, and it just actually got overturned. So you know what? It seems like others agree with me as well. It's funny because when you look at the replay, it looks like Fernandez just slipped. It looked like he just slipped,
Yeah.
and that's what led
Pretty
to
much.
the poor challenge. Absolutely bad challenge, a horrible challenge. But Fernandez said after the game that the referee told him that it was a clear studs up. It was his shin that hit
Yeah.
Madison. Madison went down. So, and don't get me wrong, it was a high challenge. They connected. It was just below Madison's knee, but it wasn't studs.
No.
Yeah, it was leg to leg. So again, I think it's rightfully challenged. But you have Eric Ten Hag saying that the red card changed the game. The red card didn't.
No, it did not. They were not good for the first
You had
minute.
lost this game already, and I get it. It was only 1-0 at that time, but you did absolutely nothing to get back into that game. It took 2 minutes into the second half for Spurs to double the lead. Kulishevsky ninja kicks the ball. Johnson cross. Johnson again. The guy contributes. He scores and he contributes. That's what he did last year. So I don't know why everyone is all of a sudden surprised that he's doing it this year, right? And then Solanke, and this is the one I messed up again. Third goal in 3 games adds to it. And this is Bergvall coming in. Yes, he didn't start the game, but he comes in, gets the assist off the corner. So yeah, very, very beautiful
big
goal.
money.
It was the secondary assist because Sarr had the flick on. Basically, you think of Seattle's goal where Morris flicked it on. That was this Sarr flicking it on.
Hey, so yeah. Solanke's got
Fifth
great
win
celebrations
at Old Trafford for Spurs. These 2 games make you feel like they know where they're going and they know what they're doing. So very, very happy to see. They are actually in the midst of playing their second Europa game right now. They're playing against, and I'm going to screw up this name, Ferencvaros.
I think that's how you say it. I don't know.
Top team in Hungary. They're undefeated in the Hungarian league right now. I believe in the first 6 games they've won all 6. It is as we're recording this right now, we're looking at the second half, and it is 1-0 for Spurs. A goal from Sarr. They just passed the hour mark. So yeah, looking good right now again. Going back to Man United, I think you have to start asking the question you don't have to start asking this question. It's been asked.
We've been asking questions for like a year.
When they had the manager review. But is Ten Hag the guy?
No. At this point, he's on thin ice. Because that is a match that gets
let go. I am
that
surprised
is a match that gets a manager sacked.
Yeah. I'm surprised it did not happen.
Performance.
He has this week. He has the game today
against
that
Porto.
They're playing in Europa against Porto, and he has the weekend. Whoever Man United is playing in Premier League. That's it. Yeah, I'm sorry, but that has to be it.
Because if he doesn't get result, they're playing Aston Villa, so
which is going to be tough. Now, let's just jump ahead right now because there's already been a few names that are being thrown out as potential replacements for Ten Hag. Some of these names, okay. Some of them, you got to be wondering.
So the names are, Graham Potter.
I get it. The guy doesn't have a job right now, but
he failed at one Big Six club. It looks like he'll fail at another.
Eddie Howe. You're going to have to pay for him.
Yeah.
He's not going to come cheap because Newcastle are not going to want to let him go. I don't know if he's going to want to go.
I think he stay at Newcastle.
I think he stays. Ruud van Nistelrooy just was added as an assistant earlier this season for Man United. My guess, most likely, if Ten Hag goes, he is the caretaker manager or interim.
Interim.
Does he earn the top job? I don't know about that.
Then we got Gareth Southgate.
Yeah.
Most recent England boss.
Could happen.
Yeah, he's been looked at. And former Juventus coach, Maximiliano Allegri. Out of all the names being thrown
Allegri is the one that stands out.
Yeah, but would he want to come to Man United?
Has Allegri ever managed outside of Italy?
I don't think so. I think,
and you got to think.
Maybe he has. I'm just gonna take a look. Maybe he has, but I don't think it was long.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
PSG was looking at him at one point, but I don't think he ever went there.
no,
Managerial
I think he.
career. Yeah, it's all been Italy, right?
He's been in. Yeah, all Italy.
Grosseto, Sassuolo, Caligari, Milan, AC
Yeah,
Milan, and Juventus. Yeah, two different stints with Juventus. Most recently was let go after some choice words he had to media, which
yeah,
apparently uh, did not fit the mold of what Juventus wants.
no, but man, like Ten Hag, like he's all like, "Yeah, I'm the second. We're good because we won 2 cups in 2 years, but that's not good enough."
No, it's not.
And
Yeah,
like
I
he
don't know.
doesn't.
I think there's a problem there, and I hate to always dump it on managers because as managers always seem to be a bit of a fall guy. This is one case where I would change that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Spurs, on the other hand, they know what they are. They know what their identity is. They know what direction they're going. I think they also know what their faults are.
yep, Postecoglou knows that.
I,
He's
w-
that.
I will be a little bit critical there that I think Postecoglou sometimes is a little bit too married to his system. When in games when it is not working, he does refuse to change.
Yep, that's true.
That could be that's the one thing against them. But I mean, wow, it's
But
just
ever
fun to
since he
watch.
came in, he always brought an identity.
Yeah, it's always fun to watch. So yeah, they're playing right now. Fener Savaros. I think I'm saying that right.
I think that's right.
Yep. And then on the weekend, Brighton. So yeah, Brighton, tough game. Yes, they just lost, but it was Chelsea.
Yep.
Tottenham will have to wait and see what they can do. The other thing to mention is Solanke has just received his first call-up for the England squad, first time in 7 years.
Well, he deserves it right now.
So yeah, on form, he's doing really good. One guy again that has been fighting to get back in that squad, though, James Maddison, has not been called up.
Yeah, interesting enough.
Yeah, it was interesting because a lot of people were thinking that with England's interim manager might benefit Maddison because they worked together when Maddison was on loan at Coventry City, I believe, way back in the day. But yeah, guess friendships don't necessarily matter when you're looking at
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, who you know doesn't really mean much. But
exactly right.
all right, moving on. Some Champions League action yesterday. Real Madrid lose to Lille and Jonathan David in Lille yesterday. Jonathan David scores the only goal of the game. It's a penalty, but it's a well-taken penalty past Lunin. And Real Madrid, they didn't start Mbappe. Maybe they should have, but it didn't really matter much because Real Madrid looked disjointed. They lacked cohesion. They weren't finishing their chances. Lille looked dangerous on the counterattack. And credit to Lille for hanging on. And big ups to Jonathan David for scoring a big goal. And I guess Canadians like scoring against Real Madrid because Alphonso Davies also scored against Real Madrid last year.
I was reading somewhere this is the first game that Real Madrid has lost at home in.
No, it was in Lille.
Oh, it was in Lille? Sorry, I thought it was elsewhere. Then yeah, I don't know what I was reading.
Yeah, this is Real Madrid's first defeat in Champions League since May 2023.
That's
when they lost Man City.
Sorry. I thought it was a home thing.
First in the group stages since October 2022 against RB Leipzig.
Yeah.
So yeah, well done to Lille. I won't be too worried about Real Madrid at this point because they always figure it out.
Yeah.
But it kind of doesn't help when players like Endrick, Vinicius, and Bellingham, they didn't do any favors yesterday. Like, I barely noticed Bellingham when I was watching that game.
What about John Duran?
I don't know, this guy just coming out of nowhere. Maybe the Chelsea hierarchy saw something that many others didn't. But every time he comes off the bench, he scores a banger.
Yeah.
Every time he plays, he scores a goal.
Yeah.
And this time he does it against Bayern Munich coming off the bench. Another wonder goal. And Aston Villa beat Bayern Munich in Villa Park.
Hey, maybe this means you got to take a look at players from the MLS.
Yeah, because John Duran once upon a time played for the Chicago Fire, and hey, imagine he stayed there with Chicago Fire.
Well, I mean, it was Austin Villa picked him up from
yeah, the Fire.
Chicago. Yeah,
Yeah, he wasn't there for very long though, like 2 seasons.
about that. I think he only played. I don't even
A
think he
handful of
played
games.
a full season. Only
Uh,
in terms of games.
no, he only was there during the 2022 season. 27 games, 8 goals,
Yeah,
and um, just what a player! Like this guy, if he keeps it up, this guy is the best young striker in the world. Up and coming, and also shout out to everyone's favorite villain goalkeeper, Emi Martinez, for making the big saves against Bayern Munich's attack. 7 shots on target for Bayern Munich, and Martinez didn't let any go past him. And like he denied Kane, Gnabry, Tell, and even Alfonso Davies couldn't really. I mean, he was okay, but didn't make a big impact against Aston Villa. And I'm also just reading here that John Duran has scored more goals, 5, as a substitute in all competitions than any player of the Big 5 leagues, and the only player in Europe's Big 5 leagues with more goals off the bench than him since February 2023, which is when he made his debut for Aston Villa, is Lautaro Martinez.
there you go.
So this guy, he's the real deal.
Yeah,
and
he's shining right now. He's
only 20 years old.
Along with just, I mean, you put a player like that underneath Unai Emery. Emery is, and it feels weird to say this, but he is an underrated manager. I mean, this is a guy who's won Europa League.
I think he's more than just underrated. I think he's one of the best managers in the world.
I think he is too, but I don't think he gets the wide acclaim that he would if he was at a bigger club. Like, we don't look at Unai Emery with the higher upper echelons of all managers that are there, and I think we should.
Because when you say best managers in the Premier League, you obviously think of Pep. I guess Arteta fits there.
Yeah,
and
also right now you think of like globally, you're thinking Ancelotti. Even people throw in Allegri within that. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah, I think Emery should be in that conversation. Again, it might be a bit of a controversial take, or it's one that you could legitimately argue against, and you absolutely could argue against that he might not be at that level. But I think it's worthy of a conversation.
No, I think he is at that level because what he's done with Aston Villa the past year, just phenomenal.
Back in the day with Sevilla, right?
Yeah, well, all those Europa leagues.
Yeah, I mean, he was the guy. He was the guy. Yep. It was his trophy, right?
Right.
You basically started etching his name on it before the competition started.
That was pretty much why Sevilla, like the Europa League, is the Sevilla league.
Yeah, it felt that way for 2-3 seasons. Yeah.
Yep. And some other news here. So FIFA is starting to consider. Oh, it's actually happening right now.
Yeah.
Sanctions to the Israeli Football Federation.
They were going to be considering it after complaints that were brought up by the Palestinian Football Federation, but they are now actually going ahead as of today. There's actually 2 different investigations going on. One of them has to do with offenses of discrimination, and the other one has to do with here, I'm just trying to take a look at it right here. It has to do with FIFA's Governance, Audit, and Compliance Committee to do with Israeli competitions of football teams that are based in the territory of Palestine. So, again, very, very preliminary, very, very open. Israel is already having issues within European competition. They're being forced to play their home games outside of Israel right now. They're actually playing them in Hungary. And even then, there has been security concerns. Their most recent away game against Belgium had to be removed because of security issues. So, again, they're FIFA investigations. They take as long as they take, and that usually is a very long time. Don't expect this to be fast. So yeah.
And we'll see where this goes here. I guess I won't say too much about this, but
Yeah, it's way too early. It's like literally the investigation got the okay earlier today. So
yeah. And there's a weird one. So
yeah,
Alvaro Morata, the journeyman striker, it just feels like he changes teams every week. He recently joined AC Milan.
yep,
He's forced to move out of Corbetta, which is like a small town outside of Milan, after the mayor, Marco Ballerini, who's apparently an Inter Milan fan, outs the player for living there. So Morata has to go somewhere else.
yeah. Murata actually called this guy out, saying that it was an invasion of privacy, and he has to prioritize the safety of his family. So yeah, he just moved there, and now he's moving out. He wanted the small community because he was hoping that it would be a little bit quieter for his time
Yeah.
playing for AC Milan. It's not going to be
Yeah.
happening in Corbetta.
I'm pretty petty from the mayor. Like, oh my God, there's a player from my rival team that
I
I'm
mean, I'm
friends
hoping
with.
that wasn't it. My hope is that it was just a mayor saying, "Hey, look, this big player is moving here. I'm excited. Yes, he's from the opposing team, but I'm excited." If it was, I
Should have
mean,
kept quiet about that because that's
honestly, just keep quiet. Like there's no point. Just let the guy live his life. Let his family live
yeah.
their
Let him
life.
live their lives. Like let him
But
live where he wants to live.
when it comes to Italian football, oh yeah, I mean, your mind goes elsewhere. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I mean, sure, say what you want about a player, but respect the guy's privacy.
Yeah, just
Like,
let them live in their house.
yeah. And so that'll conclude this week's episode. Hope you liked it. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Hello to everyone joining us on the live. Hello to everyone listening on the podcast. So Whitecaps back in action on Saturday. Time to pick up some points, especially at home. It's still concerning that they drop points against these big teams and only picking up teams against the bottom teams. Time to beat a team that's close to them in the playoff race.
It's
Just
concerning also that they're doing better away than at home.
Oh yeah, and a big kind of a boost for the Whitecaps because I'm just looking here. Michael Boxall has been suspended. I guess it's yellow card accumulation.
Interesting.
So that
Okay.
kind of helps in some ways. So we'll see if it does on the weekend. So follow me on Twitter, Joshua00. Podcast is at Enduric. I mean, Nathan is at Enduric.
I'm at
Podcast. Podcast, as you can see from the live Terminal City FC on Twitter, Terminal City FC Podcast on Insta. Don't worry. Won't say much, but there's stuff planned for more video content for Terminal City FC. When? I don't know, but some exciting stuff planned for you. So I'll
Looking
leave it
to
at
expand.
that.
We'll put it that way.
Yeah. So that concludes this week's episode. Peace out.
Take care.